Christmas morning. Let's take a look inside this tarp and see what is in here. We have a freshly rolled tarp. There's your double-ended stuff sack. I'm rolling 12 foot. That's a lot of tarp right there. So as we unroll it, we have our bag of doodads right there. We have, as they said, 4 aluminum stakes. We have guy line. We have these, they're basically shock cord tensioners. A couple of small carabiners. 4 of them actually. And you get 4 loop aliens, which are your guy line tensioners. I would use them for the ridge line. And I don't know how to use these. I'm going to try to maybe show you how they work. So let's get the weight of one of these loop aliens, and that is 0.19 ounces. That's 5.5 grams. So when you pick this thing up, I mean, it really weighs nothing. I'm surprised. Never had one in my hand before. They're just a way to not have to tie a knot. They're tensioners. I've never used one of these. There is a lot of ways to use them. I have seen videos. So I'm going to link videos to the loop aliens below this video. And you can go take a look at that and decide which way that you want to use the loop aliens, or possibly not. A lot of people don't like hardware on their hammocks or tarps. Here it is with a standard Nalgene bottle beside it. Rightio, here's the tarp with everything in it. So we're looking at 1 pound, 14.5 ounces, 30.46 ounces, 863.5 grams. You get some pretty nice instructions too. Setting up the tarp, hang rainfly between 2 trees, and how to hook up the stake and your guy line tensioner if you choose. Collect your extra guy line and keep the guy line clean. Clean rigging! That's for you, Corey. Right here it's the backup aluminum guy line tensioner, which is your option to use these no-knot loop aliens. Use the carabiners to get the 4-door tarp in cold weather so you can seal that up. And then ways to pull your doors back. And I think it's nice they show a few little different configurations. Let's rig this thing. That's a lot of tarp here. There's a lot of ways to rig a tarp. But what I want to do for this video is I want to rig the tarp the way that Onewind sent it. Because we're going to get a lot of beginners buying this tarp because it's a very economical and inexpensive tarp. And if you want a big tarp to get started, and you're looking out there, you'll see some things that are really cheap, and you'll see some tarps by some of the cottage vendors that may be a little bit out of your budget, or more than you want to spend right now. You may just be hammock curious, just dabbling a little bit, just kind of experimenting in the hammock world. This way you can get into it inexpensively. Or if you're a Boy Scout, or a parent of a Scout, or Girl Scout, or just Scouts in general, you could do a pretty minimal investment in your kid with a hammock and a tarp to get them set for camping and not have to search around on all the boutique and custom builders. So we'll rig it as is, as it comes in the package. All right, here are your 4-corner guy line tensioners. The corner loops here come with shock cord already on there so that you can form your doors. But what you want to do is hook these on the 2 more center loops. Alright, so we'll take this, and I am just going to take one of the untied ends, pass that through, push everything down, and I'm just going to take the 2 ends here and pass them through and make a tight knot on the end like that. And this will be our shock cord tensioner. Now that you got that tied on, you're gonna take one end of the line that they provide. You're gonna make sure that this tensioner is not turned this way, but turned this way. So you're looking at it like that. And you're gonna bring this cord up through here, and you're gonna go back down this hole. Not that little D-ring, but through the hole right here. So if I pull on the back end, it ain't going anywhere. And I think this hook right here might be a way of hooking up your doors. We'll see when we get there. Kind of learning some of this together. So those lines are on, and I'm tugging on it, and it's not slipping. And let me just tell you one more time. When you hook this in, look at that. You're coming up through the back hole here and down through that hole. Do not go through this little D-shaped thing, or you won't have any tension. See the way it's biting right now? I'm tugging on it and it's holding. Not there. Sticking with the plan of the way this comes, we have your stake right here, 4 included. And this is the other end of the line. And we're going to tie what's called a bite. Probably one of your most simple knots. I'm just doubling the end right here, and I'm simply tying just a little, making a loop, doing this right there. Just called a bite. And right here with our stake, you see it's got these little teeth on here, so when we put our bite on, depending on how deep you can get your stake for a current situation, you just put the bite over and let it use these teeth to hold it. And you always would like to have it closer to the ground. If my fist were the ground right here, you want to be on that one. If for some reason you can't get your stake in real deep, you don't want to use this top one. It's pulling more. You want to go lower. You're just going to get a little better chance of that not popping up out of the ground. And always remember, when you put your stakes in, don't go straight down. Go at an angle. So my tarp is this way. You want a little bit of an angle, so the stake has to work a little bit to pop out of the ground. And we'll weigh one of the stakes, and that is 0.55 ounces and 15.5 grams. Now as we're rigged up, here is the end we're going to pull to tighten or loosen this. If I want to loosen this, I'm just going to come right here and sort of lift up where that little D-hole is. D-hole! And loosen that up. And then when we want to tighten, we take this loose end right here, and we're just going to pull that to tighten. But one little thing, on this end that has no knot in it, I'm going to tie a little knot just so it never pops out this hole. We're just going to tie just one little knot, close up to the end as you can, like that. And that prevents that from popping out that hole when you pull your line. And what I mean, if you were loosening this, and loosening, and loosening, and loosening, and pulling through, and now we're getting to the end here, and if that little knot wasn't there, you pull it right out the hole, bam, and you'd have to start over. In my eyes, even those few seconds take away from you just sitting and staring off into the wonderment of the backwoods. We got dangling line. Look at that. Just dangling there, waiting to get muddy. But if you were one of those people that are just a spridge fastidious and don't like that kind of thing, there's an easy way to sort of wrap that up and contain it so it's not touching the ground and getting muddy, and it's clean and it looks neat, and it's just nice. It's just nice. So let's take a look at that. All right, pretty simple with the way this is set up with the tensioner on here, which is 2 shot cord lines. You have the perfect thing to hold your line, and then slide this down to hold it. And this would be the way I would do it. I would just simply take this loose line, this little bundle here, and just take my 4 fingers and I kind of spread them out, and I'm just going to wrap them like that. And then we're gonna just put them like that, Just going to put that little bundle right here and then just slide that down. Now you're nice and neat. Look at that. I think that's pretty cool. God, that really is a big tarp. You know, one thing I did notice looking at the ridge line is it looks like it has a taped seam. They didn't really tout that on their stuff, but I would say that all looks pretty sealed, because even at the top here where they have that hook, if you look closely, you can see that that is taped. And then when you get to the end where the stitching is there, you can see that clear tape around there. I am quite curious about that. Curious to see how long it lasts. I've never had a tape seam on a tarp in the inside. So we're gonna have a few rainy days here, so I'm gonna leave this up, have the hammock rigged in it to check for drips. Also see on the side pullouts here, there's tape on the seams. Sort of hard to see in this light, but you can just sort of see that clear covering over that. At least I hope you can. Here we're rigged in fair weather mode, and these shock cords are on there. You got the little 4 beaners they send with you right here, and you can just hook those together and pull your doors back, or your flaps I should call them, if you don't want your doors closed. There you go. The doors are closed. And I guess what I ended up doing is what I always do. I have an extra stake. I got that in the ground. These are the stakes I kind of keep out here by my rig. These are just gutter nails. And I just staked it to that shock cord. If you want those doors completely closed, you're going to have to learn to set your tarp up on a little bit more of an A-frame pitch. Oh, it's starting to rain again. And by that I mean, instead of your tarp being out like that, it's more narrow. Namaste. Namaste. It's more narrow. Well, this is good that it's raining. Let's go in and see the doors from the inside. So there's your closure. That's pretty good. I mean, I've been in storms and not even closed my doors. But for privacy, keeping the wind out, and the times I have closed my doors, it's been for wind. But man, this tarp is huge. And on this side, I have what I call the one door. I guess anybody would call it that. Just one door pitch, so this would be my normal way, kind of in and out at camp. And I have been asked, when people say, how do you get out of those doors when they're like that? Well, because these have shock cord, I could just, you know, kind of slip my way through them, but you know, I'm gonna trip all over them. I'll show you a little handy thing here. If you still kind of want your doors closed, but you want to be able to get in and out easy, check this out. If I have one door pulled out a little bit and one door in, and this way I can just kind of slip in and out. Just be conscious of your shock cords right there. But you will trip over them, but then you'll know where they are. Well, this is working out perfect that we got some rain. This will be a good chance to check out this tape up here, see if we get any dripping. And of course, that's what your tarp is all about. It's about a shelter. It's about blocking the sun off of you, getting the wind off of you, keeping the rain off of you, having a little privacy. So I set this up according to how it was sent. But of course, you could change out any of this rigging. Like the orange guy lines that come with it, they sort of seem paracord size shape. You could go somewhere and get a thinner Dyneema line, which is what I use on most of my tarps. Is that a weight savings thing? You're only gonna save a few grams, but it's just kind of a personal thing, what kind of line you like. You can rig the, you know, your ridge line going here between the trees any way you want, knots, rigging. I'll have to tape these loop aliens later. I'll show you what I did, but there's so many ways to use these things. I went onto YouTube and was looking and was kind of going, I just want the most simple pull it tight, lock it off, and you're done. I mean, I think it's fantastic that Onewind sends you some of these things as an option, including these corner shock cords that you weave through your guy line and go out to your stake. Do you need that? No, you don't really need it. You could just take your line and tie a bite like I showed earlier, a loop your thing through the corner of your tarp, run it out to a stake. What I do is I tie a marlin spike knot, and that's the way I can adjust my guy line length and my tension, and I know how to tie that knot real fast. But for someone that's a beginner and has never set up a tarp and has no idea where to start, this is where you're going to start with what they send you. Now, if you stay into it, of course, you're probably going to modify down the line, and maybe you won't. Maybe this is going to be your thing. It was like when I got into hammocks, you know. I learned some certain things in the beginning. I thought that was the way it was, and then as I went along, I started seeing how different people were doing it, and I started making modifications. But you got a big old tarp, you have the side pullouts here. Really opens it up inside, and anything like that will help keep the wind from pushing it down up against you. Side tie-outs, great feature. If you want to utilize those, you're going to have to get some extra cord. Just go to any camping store. If you have a bridge hammock and you need the extra space, use these to pull out. Tie out to a tree, use a hiking pole to go out. Many ways to do it. It's just the beauty of a tarp. It's the tarp life. So I think this Onewind tarp, so far, having not seen it before, setting it up wasn't that hard. You know, a tarp is a tarp is a tarp. Super affordable. It's a lot of tarp for the money. You know, it punches well above its weight. Dear fight. You knew you were going to get hurt, Shug. You got a 12-foot ridge line right there, 12 feet. It's 10 feet across, so 5 feet per side. So that's 5 feet, and on the other side is 5 feet. So big tarp. And this is normally how I do my doors. I just use an office clip. You know, these kind of binders that you get to clip your papers together? I've always used those. Easiest thing for me, because I always want one open. I roll it up, and then I just kick those little legs back. That's always proven a good way for me. The Onewind Billow Tarp. All right, let's go through this whole loop alien. So it is on my tarp, and my guy line has a bite on it like I showed you earlier in the video. I won't pull that out, but it's just that loop you tie and then just pass your cord right through. Same thing right here. Now I'm gonna go around the tree. Come up through here. Now I will tension that up. Tension, pinch, loop this with the line on the inside. Put it over that little foot. Pull it like that. And that all kind of does the job. And then I'll just push toward the tree, loosen it up. Up this blade now. Get this on, up where I want it. Tension. Pinch, line in, wrap, pull. Done. I have now taken the Onewind hammock, which is the 11-foot hammock, and put it underneath the tarp. And the idea is to sort of leave this hanging, here and test the tape seam up there, because if it rains in the next few days and leaks, I will see the drips on the hammock if it does drip. But you know what? I'm gonna trust the taping. But I'm just one of those guys. You know, I'm one of those guys. I've been in this hammock game a long time. I always seam seal my tarps, and I did a video about that a few years ago, and that'll be right down in the description box. Remember when you got an old Timberline tent, just the A-frame tent? You always had to seam seal them. You know, that's just one of those things that a lot of factories don't do, and they did that here. And I don't know much about the taping. You know, I'm one of those guys who goes with the redundancy system, and I'll seam seal the outside of my tarp if I don't trust the inside. But usually when I get a tarp and it's not seam sealed, I do the inside and the outside, because the last thing you want is to just get a nice big drip on you in the middle of the night when you're all comfortable hanging out. In full transparency, I was sent this tarp and also this Onewind 11-foot hammock I'm in that has a bottom entry bug net. I don't have that on right now. It has a little, they put a little hanger on the ridge line. It's called a lantern hanger, you know, for a little electric lantern. There's a little ridge line organizer right here that they added on, and it has a ridge line, adjustable ridge line. But I met Isabel and Terry, who are the creators of Onewind, and those are sort of their American names. They're from China. These products are from China. And I met them at the European HangCon. They came this year and were super nice, and I thought it was great that they came. They came a long way to be there. I've been asked probably at least 10 times on the hammocks and tarps on YouTube. You know, just it comes up like, Shug, what are your thoughts on the Onewind products? And I've never laid in the hammock, and I've never been under their tarp, but while out winter camping up in the Boundary Waters, I've come across a few guys who had the Onewind hot tent and had their hammocks hung up in it. So I keep seeing it, and now that I've met them, Isabel and Terry, you know, when I meet people and I meet the creators of a product, and you know, I even said, you know, I usually don't ask, but I would love to lay my eyes on some of your product, and at least I can share that with my viewers. And the great thing about it, right now, this tarp that I'm showing you is on my Amazon here on July 21st, 2025, is $89.99. So $90 basically. And on the Onewind website, I think it's $97, so $98. For a 12 by 10 tarp that is seam sealed, well, let's just say it's taped, comes with everything you need to hang it. It may not be the thing I would hang it with, but it gets you started. I think that is just a great economical buy, particularly for someone starting out that doesn't want to spend a lot of money on it yet. And AJ from HangCon told me, he said, you know, a lot of scouts have Onewind product because it's very affordable. They do have a U.S. distributor, so I was looking on my Amazon today to check the price, and it said overnight delivery if you want. Woo, buddy! All secure in Sector 7. Now leave me alone. I'm going to take a little nap here, everybody. Don't be asking me no questions. And I will be doing a looky-see of this Onewind 11-foot hammock with bottom entry bug net pretty soon. Pretty soon. Just wanted to mention that I did a series of videos on rigging tarps. Back when I was a younger man, I look at it and go, oh, look at that young fella. But I'm going to link that below in the description box. And if you want to peruse that and look at a few different ways to rig your tarp, some using hardware to tighten things up in tension and some not. And some of the easiest knots to use, even if you don't know how to tie a knot, would be like the timber hitch. And then of course there's knots like the trucker hitch and all kind of various knots, and it's all in those videos. So if you're going to get into this, you're going to have to do a little exploring on your own, because hammocks and tarps, there's just no set way. It's not like you buy one from a camping store like you would a tent and just set it up, put in all your poles, put your rainfly on, and it's done. This is not like that. And I'm sorry to break your heart and give you that news, but it's the truth. All secure in Sector 7, woo buddy! I'm humping down the trail with my pack on me, gonna hang my hammock wherever I please, y'all. He gonna hang it. He gonna string it. Gonna string my tarp up good and tight. Shoe's gonna sleep real dry tonight. Real dry. Oh my. No raindrop from the sky. Doors or flaps, none at all. Sail or Spintex. That's your call. That's your call. Sail or spin now, that's your call. Your call. Your call.